Hey there, friends and neighbors, and welcome back to Disobedient. I'm your host, Peter Arena. Lately, our episodes have been fortunate enough to be graced with some pretty amazing women who are effectively standing up for their own personal liberties and often those of their children. I recently interviewed Julianne Romanello, who is herself a mom. I was tempted to call that episode Scrappy Moms Against the Singularity. I'm glad I didn't, however, as a version of that same title seems more befitting today's guest. I'm mulling over the idea of calling it Scrappy Mom Against Bureaucratic Tyranny. Today, I'm joined by Reese Perry. Reese is a mom of 3 kids living in the greater Buffalo, New York area, who, in the wake of the authoritarian overreach that was the pandemic, lockdowns, and mandates, decided enough was enough, and it was up to her to fight for her family's rights and the rights of others. We're going to discuss that journey of patriotic activism with her today. Reese Perry, welcome to Disobedient.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Okay, your audio sounds good, so I think we're on track. And I open my interviews typically with my guests by asking them a very open-ended and sometimes a little scary question, and that is, who is Reese Perry? You tell me how you fill in the blank on that.
Okay. It's a very loaded question, I guess, in a sense. I mean, there's many versions of me. Been through a lot in life, and I'm not the same person I was years ago. I grow every single day into a better human being, a better mom, a better patriot. I guess if I were to just summarize who I am, I'm just a very simple, backwoods kind of girl who just has had enough of the totalitarian government and the overthrow of, overreach of power. And I don't know. I'm fighting for my kids. I'm fighting for their future. They're going to inherit this nation someday, and somebody's got to be a voice for them. And that's really been my main focal point here for about the last year, to gain momentum with this, to light a movement on fire, to get people excited about fighting for our kids.
You and I met at a recent meeting of the Constitutional Coalition of New York State in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And you and a number of other folks got up and were representative of different pockets of activism that are going on primarily in Western New York, but across the state generally. And so I thought perhaps this would be a great time for you to just stretch out your wings and fly with the opportunity to tell our audience how you got activated and what it is that you've been up against, what you're doing, and what you see coming down the road. So we'll take it one bite at a time. How did you get turned on?
Okay. So how I got turned on to all this basically was, I mean, when 2020 hit, a lot of people went into a state of panic, a state of fear, and they were following the instruction of government, the instruction of whoever was calling the shots at that time. And I kind of just sat back and I was very quiet for a little bit, and I just observed and I evaluated. And the more I observed and the more that I learned, I started getting mad. I started getting really ticked off because I just sat there and I just slowly watched the days go by where people just were handing over everything out of fear, out of a fear that was completely unknown. And instead of me getting sad and me being scared, I would always sit there and, question myself, like, if I succumb to this fear, what good am I for my children? Like, my children only have me. I'm all they have. So if I become fearful and if I become a victim of this, who will fight for them? Who will be able to protect them if I'm overcome by fear? So instead of getting fearful, I got angry and I decided to do something about it. So when the kids all went back to school in 2020 to the 2021 school year, it was to be expected that we were going to have to follow some type of protocol, some type of rules, because the main objective there was to get children back to in-person learning. So I understood that school districts were going to do whatever it took and implement any rules to make this happen, to make, in-person instruction a reality again. So we all played ball. It was scary. It was scary to watch your kids walk into school with everybody masked and spraying spray everywhere and doing everything. I mean, this was very scary for them. But kids are resilient. They bounce back. Like, I knew they'd be okay after they adjusted. So we kind of went through the school year and we just watched as the news unfolded, as things came to light, how the narrative just slowly crumbled. And by the end of the 2021 school year, I was done. I was over it. I was like, how are they even keeping this up? How is this even still a thing? With how are they gaining traction with this? Like, lie after lie. And so then when the 2021 school year began into the 2022, which we are now currently in, I was adamant on like trying to figure out how to get our kids out of masks. And I leaned to, social media. I leaned to people who were also fighting this fight, like Robbie De Niro and Kelly Hunter and, Nancy Ortelli. And I started leaning and watching, and I started joining meeting after meeting and just following all these different people and trying to gather all this information. And I even hooked up with a woman from Long Island named Lisa, and we exchanged information. And I got super close with Brenda Hansen from We the People, and had conversations with her, had conversations with Ginger Schroeder, our county legislator. And I really just I put myself out there. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of staying diligent and making connections with people to obtain as much information as I could. And then I started a Facebook group and, invited all my local people. And then I shared all the information that I could find so that they could also stay informed and, know why things are happening, why we are at where we're at. And throughout this journey, it didn't take me long to stumble across the CDC funding agreement. And that has basically been, I guess, the torch that has lit my path for this. And sometimes people that already know me and know about this agreement, they don't want to hear about it anymore. I understand, but there are so many parents out there, especially in New York, that have no idea that this document exists. Zero. So I will keep repeating myself until people wake up and understand like how much control we do not have over our school system. We
So,
as the
so
as a
tell,
people,
tell us, take your time and basically flush out the details on what that agreement is for us, because there are a lot of, as you say, there are a lot of people who do not know what that is and what the truly deep rooted implications are of it, and how it is, in my opinion, it exemplifies, it typifies this kind of model of bureaucratic government hostage taking. And so go for it.
okay. So the scary part is this agreement was signed. This agreement was signed to take effect July 1st of 2020, going into the 2020-21 school year. Nobody knew about this agreement. It was not in the public eye. It was not talked about. It was basically swept under the rug and kept very quiet so that parents didn't gain any, knowledge of it. And it was only found by people like myself and the people who I've connected with who've done digging and have found it. And this agreement basically, it was signed on July 1st of 2020, and it does not end until June 30th of 2023. So it is a 2-year, a 2-year long school year agreement. And what this agreement was based on was the funding. The federal government gave out funding to every state in the United States of America for COVID relief. Now, they gave it to our governors basically, or our government, and then told them basically, do with it what needs to be done. So our governor decided to basically give the health department all this power, and it was smart. It was smart to take the heat off them, to give the health department all of this overreach, all of this power, and all of this control, because they had more teeth to grab into things and get things to comply, by shutting restaurants down, by shutting schools down, because if you don't comply with the health department, you're done. Where your governor can't come in and say, oh, if you don't comply, we're going to shut you down. That's not how it works. So they gave the power to the New York State Health Department, and the New York Health Department and the CDC and the United States government, New York government wrote this this funding agreement up for here in New York, and there's a whole plethora of terms and conditions of this agreement. And one of the terms and conditions that bothers me the most is that it was supposed to be held for public comment. It was so let me back up a second. So basically, this agreement, they took this money and they divvied it up. They divided it up to each school district in New York State. And they gave each school district in New York State a big chunk of money based on the number of students that they had and the population. So, and this agreement again is going to be paid out over 2 years. Franklinville, for instance, got almost $3.8 million from the CDC funding agreement, federal COVID money. And it went based on per student. So again, you can look this all up. This is all public knowledge. You can go to, oh my goodness, I forget the name of the website. I can find it and put it in a comment. And it'll tell you.
You get it to me afterwards, and I'll put it
Okay.
into the show notes.
Okay. Yep. And you can go look it up and figure out how much funding your school got. So in part of this terms and conditions for each school to take this money, this is just that they didn't have to take the money, but they did, because it's always about money. So I always sat and I questioned myself, why did Franklinville need $3.8 million? And when I questioned our Board of Education on that, it was, of course, for all the PPE and the cleaning and the extra stuff and all the extra money it costed to go, virtual for schooling for that couple months. And, just their excuses of why we needed this money. And then when I asked why it was not held for public comment, because every school district should have held this for public comment. The Board of Education to every school district in New York State should have came to the community and said, hey, we're being presented with this agreement, this funding agreement to get COVID relief money, and it's supposed to be held for public comment. Not one school in New York did that, not one, including mine. And when I challenged our Board of Education on why they did not hold it for public comment, because to me, that's a breach. To me, that's like, you already defaulted. You completely defaulted on the terms and conditions of this money by not doing exactly what it said to do, was hold it for public comment. They told me it was because nobody asked. How are you supposed to ask when you don't know this thing exists? And the fact that not one school in New York, not one, came and did right by this. So the more I kept digging on this whole, the terms and conditions of this money, and again, it's being paid out over 2 years. So if your school defaults, that funding stops. So they have got to follow this agreement until June 30th of 2023. And the terms and conditions in there were critical race theory, social emotional learning. And every school in New York now is being forced to teach your children that due to this agreement. So it is not going anywhere until June 30th of 2023. And they're already trying to grip their teeth in deeper. New York State is summoning the Board of Education members right now, as we speak, to go to a seminar on why the Board of Education all needs to get on board with critical race theory / social emotional learning for the children of the school. And they're going to be using the term dignity. They're going to push that term because it's going to be dignified to teach the children this. So this fight is nowhere near over. This agreement was just what they needed to get their foot in the door, to basically put that nail in the coffin, to stop parents. I mean, we already dropped the ball, all of us, including myself. Like, it shouldn't have took a pandemic to get all of us involved and all of us hyped up and mad. But unfortunately, that's the truth. And that's the truth every single one of us have to carry. But
that's just the state of human nature. It takes a crisis to wake people up.
It does. And, so I never claimed to, say, oh, I've been on top of this since day one. No, I'm just as guilty. I've been complicit in all of this and just, staying in my lane, just getting by. And then, I seen all this, got upset, and it lit a fire under me. And I think a lot of it too had to do with, parents on Facebook and parents on social media, just, your Instagrams, everything, like the constant complaining, the constant, why is it like this? And everybody was just like up in arms. And it was like, I am so sick of listening to everybody complain and nobody do nothing about it. So I did something about it. And I created my group. I got a great following. I got a following of like some really diehard, grandmothers and moms and dads that, genuinely care. I even got people that don't have kids in the school, and they should be just as concerned too, because you pay taxes, don't you? You pay school taxes. You should have a say. And unfortunately,
taxes that never went down despite receiving an additional $3.8 million over 2 years.
No, absolutely not. And, you know, in my district, and this is why I say like about getting involved in figuring out your numbers, figuring out like in your town, you know, how much of school taxes, you know, how much of the like the budgets and all that, like that you pay into your village, into your town, like what is the percentage that goes to the school? Like in Franklinville, like our school district it's the biggest hub in our community. We take up 3 times more funding in our school than we do in our local government. So all the money that comes into Franklinville, a lot of it's all funneled through our school. And these are things you need to start asking. There's things you need to start looking into, and then you know, trying to figure out what you can do to become a part of it to make that change. And it's more than just running for a board of education seat. That's another thing that I worked on really hard this year too, was getting somebody put in the board of education position. But the cards are stacked against you. I'm not saying that don't run because of that, but it's very hard. You're going up against the man. You're going up against a system, you know, where these schools are now all completely state run. Like, just for instance, pre-COVID, the community, the parents, we had about, you know, 30% control of our district. And since COVID began and we took that funding, we now only have about like 20%, 25. So within 2 years, the state gained 5 more to 10 more percent control over our district by giving like more state funding to us and taking less from the people. And the school will say, well, we haven't raised your taxes, your school taxes in 2 years. And this is why. And it's like, I would rather have paid more in school taxes knowing that I was going to keep control over my district than keep giving more control to, you know, to the state. Like, you know, our schools, unfortunately, they are very state run. We have little to no say anymore. And the Board of Education was designed to basically support the parents, support the children, make sure all the kids' needs are being met and the parents' voices are being heard. That's what it was designed for. And it's not that anymore. And it was designed to take guidelines from the state, to take suggestions, to, you know, have state support, but not be run by the state. And now it's run completely by the state. And the board, people in these Board of Education seats are state run Board of Education members. That's the truth. So me getting somebody in there, it's really just about transparency at this point. You know, they want to hide everything. They want to keep everything quiet. And if you've noticed, like,
right, you're not necessarily going to upset the apple cart by getting,
no,
you know, someone who's aligned with you into a school board position, but at least then you've got some eyes on the inside who are telling you what is going on and what is coming down the pike.
Absolutely. We needed somebody in there who was willing to listen to us and be a voice for us. And I'm not saying that the rest of our board members might not care. I'm not trashing them. You know, we you know, we're a very small town. Like, we know everybody in my school. We know each other. We know the staff. We know the teachers.
Right.
We're a community. We're
Right.
a small community at that. But unfortunately, it's fallen very fast. And they always, in our current board, they always keep saying that their hands are tied. Their hands are tied because of, you know, you can get fined from the state and, you know, we don't understand. Tell us then, talk to us, treat us like adults. Like, tell us what you'll be fined. Tell us what the alternatives are instead of making these decisions for our children without giving the parents in the community and not just us, but the teachers, like a say. Like, they passed this whole critical race theory and all of this without even talking to the teachers about it as well. Like, the teachers don't want to teach this in my district. They don't want to teach. They don't even want to teach Common Core. Are you kidding me? Like, you know, like I said, we're rural, we're country. Like, we are very more conservative type run, you know, bit like town. So it sucks that we're getting all of our options and all like our voices silenced and taken away. So having somebody get on that board, it's really just about, we need transparency. We need somebody to be honest. We're not asking him to be a whistleblower or go in there and fight against these people. Like, when we got him to run, it was, please just go in there, work with them, be, you know,
Right.
develop relationships with them. You know, we want,
right. Don't go in there being a bull in a china shop.
Yes, like,
You want to basically, you've got to ingratiate
asset.
yourself to what's going on with these guys.
Exactly. Be an asset, work together, and, you know, make it known to them that, you know, like, we need to try a little bit harder.
Yeah.
to keep our parents involved, to keep our community involved, and start asking the hard questions of
Right.
why.
But you were about to say that the school board is not necessarily the answer. It sounded as though you were about to talk about some other solution, some other way of basically
Yes.
getting your spear into the chink in the armor.
Yes, because the school board too, like when I tell you they have they have a lot of weight on their shoulders too. I'm not saying in every school board, because I the inner city school boards where their numbers are huge and they're more liberally ran, that's a different story. Those people, I praise God that I'm not in that position to be up against a school board like that, because that is a whole different ball game for me. And there's no winning when that corruption goes that deep with them people just by putting one of your people on. That's going to take a lot of work to change that liberalism type thinking and manner, where at least, like I said, in my small town, we are a community. And so but again, when I'm talking about, like, they also have pressure on them and they have rules to follow because of state law. And that's not what a lot of people understand. Like, yeah, you can fight all day to get your candidate in there, and if they win, they're still, like, I told everybody from day one, if he gets in, don't expect him to be able to get in and make change. He's one man. He can be a voice for us, absolutely, and he can and help try to make a difference. And we can keep building off of that. He is a stepping stone. And then next year, maybe try to get another one in, and then the next year, and just keep building and building. But it goes beyond the school. Like, yes, schools are huge, but again, they have state law to follow as well. They have, like, they take an oath, and they do certain things, so they can be fined, they can be sued, and there's bigger head honchos ahead of them. Like, there's that whole New York State Board of Education, like, authority guy, I forget his name, but say if our board were to not like a certain board member, they can convene and say, if like your board member broke a rule, they can convene and get you kicked off. They can get you thrown off, or they can call in New York State and they could put a case against you to get you removed from the board. Like, there's a lot of power here, and there's a lot of control that New York State has over our
All
schools.
the more reason not to be a bull in a
Yes.
china shop. You don't want to go in there and make enemies of these people, because they know the rules of the game, and you're walking in there like a babe, a babe in the woods here, and next thing you know, they've created a little coalition, and you're out on the street.
Absolutely. And it's like, and I get it, like, parents are mad, they want change right away, they want this and that, but it's not how it works. That's not how it works at any avenue of life. You take baby steps, you build, little stepping stones, and you just keep building on them and building on them. And again, it's going to take a little bit more than just getting on the school board. You need to become active. You need to figure certain things out, like, and start with local. I always tell everybody, local government is where it's at, because right now, you think the school board's bad, you think that your school has, like, you have no power in your school, your local government has got, like, zero. When COVID hit, they basically, like, New York had a lot of Republicans. They all folded, they all rolled over. We don't have anything anymore as far as local government goes. We are so state run in every aspect of everything that's happening today. Like, so I started, like, branching out. Like, I know I don't want to wear myself thin, and my main fight has been for the children, because again, they're going to inherit this nation, and they're worth fighting for. And, like, when you think about all this critical race theory and all this indoctrinating, and another thing I wanted to talk about was, like, the whole gender identity policies and stuff like that. Like, these things are so important, and you really need to, like, unpack it all and get to the bottom of it all. And the reason why the kids, to me, is my main fight, and why I'm so passionate about it, is because we can, as adults, go all day and talk all day about how, we need to step up, and we need to, start doing things politically and making things politically happen. But are you thinking about the next 10 years? Are you thinking about the next 20 years? Because that group of kids in the next 10 to 20 years that are all going to be graduating and going out into the real world, that are all going to be brainwashed, indoctrinated from critical race theory. They're going to be turned against their parents, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. You're trying to teach your kids morals, values, godliness, love, country, and they're taking that from your kids every single day in the public school education system. So when they all come out, guess what? They have automatically brainwashed puppets ready to go to work, that hate their parents, that are against everything we tried to teach them, and we have nothing. So where does that leave you and me in 10, 20 years? I mean, you got to start there. You have to start there. Like, yes, we can try to fix everything from every level, but it's within our children. We've got to save them. There's never been a more crucial time to fight for your kids than there is right now. And that is my passion. That is what matters the absolute most to me, because they are innocent in all of this. And it's, I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah, well,
it feels me.
they know. It's sort of like the old orchardists adage that says it's easier to train than to prune.
Yes.
And so they understand, as well as we understand, that it's best to get at and instill the principles and values and ethics that are important to you at an early age, because that's when the foundation is being built. And so and so they just happen to have the money with the strings attached that is
Yep.
allowing them the opportunity to get in there and get their ethics or lack thereof instilled into these children.
I mean, this all started years ago, and we all kind of slept on it when they took the Pledge of Allegiance out of school, when they took prayer out of school. And I mean, it's supposed to be freedom of religion. It's supposed to be, freedom of speech. Like, how can they just started dismantling us? And we all complained to just let it keep going. And now, and I'm not saying it's too late, because it's not too late. It's never too late to try and stand up and make a difference. But we've just let it go for so long that we have a lot of work to do, a lot. And that's like when I'm coming back to, like, even local government. If we were to start getting involved, like, say you don't want to do school board, you don't want to, get into the nitty gritty of everything that's going on in schools, go local. Look for the assembly positions, look for, just, town mayors, village mayors, anything. Like, there's plenty of positions within village and towns that you can run for that are vacant or that are up for election, and you can make the difference. Because again, it's those building blocks. If we were to all take back local government across New York State, okay, so every little town in New York State all of a sudden took back their local government, do you know the amount of the red wave that we would see? Do you know that the state would lose all control over us if us as local small governments all took control back? Like, that would be huge. And nobody's looking at it like that. Like, you can't go for the big fish right now. You can't go to a federal level or even like the governor level and think you're going to make some type of big impact. It's not going to happen. Like, you're trying to fry too big of a fish. You got to start small and start building and building and building, and eventually turn the narrative, turn the tides, back to more conservative, wholesome American values that, this was all built on.
So what exactly are you doing these days? What's happening these days? What are some of the boots on the ground methods and tactics you and others in your community are employing, knowing that the replacement of a school board member or members is not necessarily the panacea that you need, but you need a lot of other things going on besides that. It sounds as though you've got a little bit of a playbook going on here.
Yes. And but a big part of that is trying to keep my parents involved. Masks went away. Masks were a visual. And I tried to tell them, everyone wants to come when the drama's there and you can physically see it. But it's not done. The masks were just the visual. We have a lot of work to do. This is not anywhere near over, and it's only going to keep getting worse. So a lot of what my focus has been lately is just trying to keep people engaged, trying to keep people educated and understand certain bills that are being, drafted, certain things that have been being voted on, certain things that have passed that are going to affect your children in school, so that they're aware. Keeping people informed has really been my main thing in everything, because if I'm keeping them informed, they don't have an excuse. And so that's really been my main focus. And then recently, I've been trying to do a lot of work with the whole, gender identity policy. I've been trying to dig in with that too, with my guy, and trying to tear it apart, because, like, listen, I understand that, and that's because that's one of the biggest issues right now in New York State that a lot of parents are uproaring about, is this gender identity policy. Why do we have to have it? It's not New York State law. They don't want to cater to the whole ideal of, I want to pretend you're a boy or a girl because we don't agree with you. Okay. And I fully understand that, but you have got to meet a middle ground. You've got to understand that these kids that are transgender, like if it was my child, I would want to be able to send my child to school knowing that they felt safe in their educational environment. Does that mean we cater? Does that mean we coddle? Absolutely freaking not. But those policies have to exist for their protection, and it might not be state law that they have to exist, but what it boils down to is a civil law. It's a civil rights violation, and it can open up many doors for schools to be sued if these policies are not put in place. So let's protect our districts. Let's protect our children with these policies. But the problem we're running into, these policies are very, very loosely worded. They're very generically written, and nobody's putting enough time and energy in to break them down and change the wording to better protect everybody. So right now, me and my, the guy that I have on the board of education, he was amazing. He was phenomenal. Oh my goodness. We went to the board and he broke it down and, told them like, these are the flaws I see, and this is what we can do to correct it. And we got a pause on it for our district. Every district should be doing this. They should be, demanding pauses on this till people can actually read it and get through it. And are you there? You're muted?
Yeah, I'm muted. Sorry about that. Yeah.
My phone.
Oh no! Oh my God! No, we're good. We're good.
My phone froze. I apologize. That's the glory of live recorded.
Yeah, that's
technology.
fine. We're all good. It's all good. We're good.
Okay, so I apologize for that.
Okay, I lost track of where you were talking. So
gender identity policy. So it's very important that all schools really try to get a good policy in place to protect everybody. And at the same time, don't let the malarkey happen. Like draw the line with this stuff. And because you got to think about the repercussions of this too. If you don't have a good policy in place, do you want extremist left values, like leftist type values in your school dominating your children? No, you do not. So these policies are important, but they're also important too to protect those kids as well. Again, we got to find a middle ground where we're not enabling and coddling and whatever, but at the same time that they're safe and that they, that their needs are being met as well. And that's what's important to me right now, because that's a huge, huge topic right now. So I'm just trying to keep people educated on that and informed on that, and let them know what they can do to make a situation that nobody is comfortable talking about and nobody really wants to deal with it, but you have to like informing people like what they can do, what their options are at this point. So that's something that's in the works right now. It's supposed to be voted on, I guess, here in June at my next board of education meeting. I am going to try to put another pause on it, but I don't know how that's going to turn out. I'll let you guys know, but because it's still not good enough. Not to, you don't want to micromanage, but again, with a subject that important, I feel like there's just certain things that need a little bit more time and energy than a generically written BOCES policy, because that's another thing. Getting into the nitty gritty of all this and digging deep, you learn things that you're not so crazy about. Like out here where we live, it's not just my school district, but it's pretty much almost every school district here in Cattaraugus County. All of our policies, no matter what it is, transgender or not, they're all written by BOCES. Why? Why are they all written by BOCES? And then, there's other things that you need to, think about too. Like who's your records keeper? It happens to be our superintendent. Why? I think that's like a conflict, and I didn't figure that out until I started FOIL requesting. And that's another thing too, is the FOIL requesting. It's all about the wording, man.
Explain to our listeners what that is.
Well, the FOIL request is what you do when you want to try to get your Board of Education surety bonds.
So freedom of information.
Yes. And the first time I attempted to FOIL them, I was completely denied. They were like, they don't exist. And I'm like, what the heck? So, we hit the drawing board again, and, me and my people, and then we reworded it. And the way we worded it, it was so simple and it was so easy, and it came through. So now I have all of their foils, their bonds, and not that I plan on using them. That's not it. I'm not going to come, blazing and I'm so happy. I'm looking to nail these. That is not it. But it is for our children. It is for our parents. It is for our community. So we have something in case.
It's an empowering thing to know that you have a bullet in your bandolero.
Yes. It's not a card I want to play. I don't, because again, like when I came into this, I remember I did a live on all of this, like when I first started, and it was, everything was about the masks and trying to get our kids unmasked. And I came in with, so optimistic about, I love my district. I love our town, like I want to work with them. I want to see if they'll work with me. I want to open up communication. I want to, form a relationship with the superintendent, with the Board of Education. And I did my very best, man. I had multiple conversations with our superintendent, multiple conversations with our school board. And I really did try. And I just noticed that they weren't very receptive to wanting that same relationship. And I kind of got pushed away. And that's fine, because I don't want to say that's fine. And I don't want to say that they don't owe me nothing, because they know I speak for a lot of parents in this town. And because fortunately, I'm bold enough to do so. Fortunately, I have the guts, and I can publicly speak, and I can be bold. I'm in a position where I can be. I don't really have anything to lose by being who I am. So people come to me, and there's a lot of people that do come to me that will never come forward ever. Like whether they're a school staff member or, someone who volunteers or someone who does whatever their reason is. And that is fine. They will always stay anonymous. They can come to me anytime and speak to me. And they know this, and they know I will never throw anybody under the bus. I just want people to know they can come to me, they can communicate with me, they can tell me what's happening. And a lot of my inside information on stuff happened to come to me that way because I don't work in the school. So I had, eyes and ears and people coming to me to tell me what's going on. And then it's funny because today I actually got a phone call from another guy who, he does a podcast as well, and had a conversation with me. And his first question to me was, I'm hearing rumors that there's litter boxes in Franklinville Central. Can you tell me what you know about that? And I'm like, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. Yeah. Franklinville, when I tell you we are more conservative, I would pray to God.
Is this litter box thing the furries in the bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and listen, and I had no idea this existed. My 11-year-old son, he's in 5th grade. He came home from school the one day and he's like, Mom, do you know that there's litter boxes in other schools? And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, there's litter boxes in some of the other schools because there's kids who identify as furries. And I'm like, what the heck is a furry? I was like blown away. And he's like, and even this came from my 11-year-old son, his description. It's children who pretend to be cats and they over sexualize being that cat. He used the word over sexualize. 11-year-old. I was like, I hit the freaking floor and I'm like, oh my God. So the first thing I did was I texted his teacher. I texted the Board of Education member and I'm like, please tell me there's not litter boxes in Franklinville. And they were like, absolutely not. And, they're like, they will never let that happen. I'm like, because I said straight out, I'm like, I know our Board of Education, and I would really hope that, that everybody on that board would be completely opposed to that from what I know of these people. And I was right. My gut instinct was right. And they were like, they were, basically saying, that's not going to happen. We're not going to allow that to happen. So I absolutely shot that completely down. As far as litter boxes existing in other schools, I can't contest to that. I hear rumors, people message me, people say stuff to me on Facebook and tell me that there are, but until you send me photographs, until you show me proof, until, I get something, it's hearsay. I can't make an accusation like that without proof. I would look like a total idiot. So like, show me proof, bring me proof, and I'll bring it to light. I will use my platform to bring it to light.
Well, you've obviously worked yourself into, because of your competence, because of the talents and gifts that you have been blessed with, that you are now an ombudswoman, and you are the lobbying voice and face of your local community. And your community is blessed to have you. Some folks are not, as you say, are not able to do that. They're not able to because their jobs will be imperiled. They can't, and so they need someone like you who that's not to say that your job or your social status couldn't somehow be imperiled.
Oh, it's been.
You run a risk. Yeah.
Oh, it's been like there's people in my town that are very liberal, that are very Democrat. And the thing is, I hate that with a passion.
I hate that too. This is not. Oh my God, this is not a partisan issue. This is
not, and it's not personal. I tell everybody this is not personal. Like even my fight for like the Board of Education, like the other guy that ran, I adore him. I love his wife. His wife was my daughter's occupational therapist. The other guy that ran against my guy, like, dude, I genuinely love them people. This was not personal. This was just about who I thought was the better candidate for the job. That's it. And I hate the whole red, blue, left, right narrative. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's imposed on us deliberately. It's imposed, and people fall into those camps pretty quickly because there is that kind of football mentality of my team versus your team. And, I try to break, my friends and family away from it. I'm very fortunate. My immediate family, we're all pretty much on the same page, but you've got a lot of families that are just completely
they're torn,
destroyed.
Absolutely. They're completely torn. And, back to like what I was saying about my town, when I talk about like, big time liberals and Democrats in my town, like I have been slandered. You stay away from that Reese Perry. That Reese Perry's crazy. That's the famous line. Don't get involved with her. It's like, dude, okay, have you stopped to have a conversation with me? Have you addressed me? Have you come to me? Have you been bold enough to make that accusation that I'm crazy? Back it up. Come speak to me. I challenge all of you because I'm not crazy and I'm not for a specific side. Yes, do I lean more towards conservative values? 100%. But I am not conservative. I'm not Democrat. I'm not liberal. I am Reese Perry. I am right in the middle. I am for what is ever best for the American people and for our children. Whatever side that puts me on, I'll wear it, whatever. But I hate that. I hate that division. It really irks me. And again, so I've been slandered and I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me. You can hate on me all you want. I have thick skin. If you think for 1 second anything you have to say about me is going to hurt me, you are sadly freaking mistaken. I've had my ass kicked in life. Nothing that your mouth can say about me is going to hurt me because only small minds talk about people.
Sticks and stones.
Absolutely. So I wear it. It is what it is. And yeah, sometimes the way, I talk about things and, the fact that I can be abrupt, like I'm anything but subtle, like it turns certain people off, and that's fine. Everybody has their flavor of person. I just happen to be very loud, outspoken, bold, and it just is what it is. But the one thing that I see through all of that is I am one of the most compassionate people with the biggest heart you will ever meet in your entire life. I am extremely kind and I'm giving and I'm caring. And again, I always try to see things from the lens of both sides because both sides deserve a voice regardless, because even though me and you think a certain way and, we might think that leftism and wokeism is crazy, to those people, that's how they're convicted of it. And when you truly believe that and you're convicted of it, I don't know, like, so it's hard to explain. I really try to not be so judgy, and because I don't want to turn anybody off from the thing I'm fighting for. I don't want to have people turn away from me because you decide you stand on a certain political spectrum.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a legitimate, concern that, the pendulum swings in all sorts of directions. And so you've got people that are full blown, fully on board with this, SEL and CRT and the masks and the vaccines and all of that. And they're the cheerleaders for the Great Reset. Absolutely. They're the cheerleaders for this sort of, they think that globalism and one world government is the answer. And then you've got folks who are perhaps so far off on the other end of a spectrum. And so you have to find out where you're at. I think that this kind of leads into this discussion that was part of our chat with Nancy Orticelli a couple of weeks ago about the importance. She is amazing. She really is amazing. She's and like you, she just keeps on moving. She's like a bulldozer. And
absolutely.
But in any event, this idea that we have strayed so far from our constitutional values, and this is not This is not a religious thing. This is not some sort of, fundamentalist thing. This is the core of what it is to be an American. This is what this country was founded upon. These are the actual base documents that enshrine our God-given rights. They are not given to us by the Constitution. All they are is the written manifestation and what I say, the codification of rights that were already ours.
Absolutely.
And this whole conversation that you started our interview off with about the inculcation of federal monies primarily, but also state monies to all the communities, that effectively removes the autonomy and sovereignty of any given community, or let's go further out and call it the state, by what should have been a small appendix on the very end of our confederacy of states. That was the federal government. That's how it started off. It was supposed to be this little thing that was an organization that effectively defended our borders, negotiated treaties, made sure that interstate commerce happened, and did sundry other things. But that was it.
Yeah.
And now it has become this malignant cancer that is now engrossed everything. Yeah. And anyway, so I'm kind of going off on a tangent.
No, I understand. But the reality is too, is like, I have opinions on these things. Okay. I feel and think a certain way. Absolutely. But what do my opinions matter? Your opinion doesn't mean anything. The way I think doesn't mean anything. I want to go based on facts, not feelings. It doesn't matter what my opinion is at all. All that matters is the true hardcore facts of the situation. And it really all boils down to, again, I just, like with Nancy too, we're fighting for every side just to have that right, to keep those rights to choose. And that was completely taken away from all of us. And everything has been so swayed to the left, swayed to that, that narrative, that everybody on the opposing side has no voice anymore. And it shouldn't be that way. We all need to have a voice. We all need to start listening to facts over feelings. Just because you feel and think a certain way doesn't mean it's right. And we have to be reminded of that. And because I've gotten in not arguments, because I refuse to argue, but I have been attacked because of my stance on freedom to choose over masks and vaccines. It should be a personal choice, always, no matter what. If you want to wear a mask, fine. If you want to get the shot, fine. If you don't, fine. I don't care. Who am I to tell you anything to do in your personal life? But then I've had people come at me, you deserve to go to jail. You should be in jail for not wanting to wear your mask or not wanting to get vaccinated because you're going to make my 80-year-old mother sick. I can't handle that mindset. That's fine if you want to live that way. And if you want to be that way, I respect your right to choose. And that's what I want for our children. So when I started this, and when I went to my board of education, the very beginning, that was one of my biggest things is, why is this catering to just one side? What about the other side of us that don't want this? Why don't we matter? Why can't we have a voice for our kids and have the right to choose what's best for our children? Because we don't. We absolutely don't at this point. And the only option right now for any of us parents that feel this way is the homeschool. And it's not plausible for everybody. And I'm sorry, but homeschooling isn't really the easiest either sometimes. I homeschool my one kid. I started homeschooling my son when the masks didn't go away in 2021. And when they got lifted here, I sent him back. And it wasn't because I couldn't get the education part down. We were fine as far as curriculum goes, but it is a lot. I am one human being. I am one mother. It is just me and my children, and to do both. And my daughter is special needs. So she's a totally different ethne in all of this. It was so much on my plate, and it's not that I couldn't do it, but sending him back was an option. And I felt like, okay, masks are gone. Yes, I keep saying it's bigger than masks, and it is. But that was one of my biggest things about pulling my kids, was because I wanted the choice. And it was more than just choice, though, too, when it came to my son. I know I've talked to a lot of parents that can relate with this. When he was being forced to mask, he genuinely was afraid. It took me the whole summer of 2021 to get him unafraid to even leave my home without a mask. And it went from basically, and I say this all the time too about the school districts, and this was my biggest complaint to my school with all of this, was we went, and this is elementary school. I can't contest to the high school. I don't have a child in the high school. My 20-year-old's in college for 2 years already. She graduated in 2020, so she didn't have to wear masks in school. It was different. But I can contest to elementary school when these kids went from being greeted to smiles and how's your morning and good morning. Now it's fix your mask. Where's your mask? Put your mask on. Like, it shifted. The whole thing at the elementary school shifted. And then these kids, I started thinking about the children that don't know anything else, that were coming into pre-K, kindergarten, that masks were all they knew. And they were being forced to be told that it was the new normal. And they were given books to how to learn emotions behind a mask. Like, that's disgusting. Like, that whole human connection, the whole, speech pathology thing, everything. There's millions of examples I can give on why masks were detrimental, but it genuinely affected my family because it affected my son and it embedded fear into him. And I couldn't take it anymore. So I'm like, that's it. I'm done. You're not wearing a mask anymore. So guess what? You're not going to school. And I kept him home. And so when they lifted, I thought it would be best for him to, go back to his friends, go back to community. And, again, and like, fortunately in my school, critical race theory and social emotional learning isn't pushed very hard. So I'm fortunate. I don't have one of those leftist type school districts again. So, I live in like one of the best places, I would say, in New York, where if things are going to happen, like, where we can actually have some say. So I'm fortunate. And again, I love my district. I love my community. I love my people. And that's what's forcing me to want to fight even harder. It's for all of them. It's for all of us to have a voice. And I would encourage anybody, and no matter where you are, to stand up and fight. And your fight may be much larger than mine. Like, if you're in a Buffalo public school district or Rochester or Albany or New York City, like, you're going to have the fight of the life on your hands. I mean, I'm one voice in a rinky dink speck on the map town. Like, it's, and then that's, so I don't know. I mean, maybe that's why my voice is louder. I'm not getting drowned out by the sounds of, millions of liberals coming at me type thing. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but prepare yourself. Get ready for the fight of your life, because they're still coming for your kids, whether you want to believe it or not. That agreement's still in place. And not only is that agreement still in place, but here in New York, schools even got more money this past February. There was more money. There was more funding. So I don't know where this is all going to lead up to. I don't have that crystal ball to say what's going to happen. I don't know if vaccines are going to be mandated for school children, but are they working on it? Are they trying to get it done? Absolutely. But I don't know if it's going to pass or not. So I'm just taking.
This is like I think you were saying earlier, or somebody saying, we're in the eye of the storm.
Absolutely.
We the eye of the hurricane right now, and things are quiet, things are calmed down a little bit. Is it deliberate? I don't know. I don't care. The fact is that there's every indication that this is all coming back, and it may be coming back double down. And so we have to be vigilant and begin organizing when you least feel like organizing and being prepared. And so there is that. We're closing in on the end of our hour now. And so it went by so incredibly fast. You've given, I believe you've given me a lot of encouragement, because there is that empowering feeling that comes from listening to you, that, this doesn't require, you don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be some sort of technically trained person. You have to be someone who believes that what you're doing is right. And we also know that we have this rule book, this Constitution behind us that basically says, this is how it's supposed to be done. And you're not doing it the way it's supposed to be done. So help me out here and give me some closing words, although that last bit was really a wonderful summing up. And then also tell people where they can find you if you want to be found.
No, absolutely. I feel like it's time for parents. I mean, and we're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of parents. We're seeing a wave of parents in uproars across the country. Keep it up. Do not stop. Fight for your kids. Your kids are the future. They are what matter. You are alive today because you live and breathe for your children. Like, come on, light that fire under you. Get in this. Fight for your babies. Like, you would lay your life down for them. You would die for them. So where are you? Step up, stand up for them. Like, even no matter what side you stand on, fight for all children's rights, fight for your right as a parent to be able to choose no matter what you believe, what you feel, keep it choice. That's what America's about. It's about that freedom to choose. And I just, I don't know. I just encourage everybody, get that fire, fight, do what you got to do. Again, like you said, you don't need a PhD. You don't need to, you know, be in a certain position in life, whether, you know, it doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, whether you're poor, middle class, rich, this does not matter. This does not have, you know, credentials to be a voice for children. And like, I look at myself, like, school was very difficult for me. I have learning disabilities. I have comprehension disabilities, and school was horrible for me. It was very hard for me. And from someone I still have comprehension disabilities as an adult, and I overcome them constantly. And I reach out to people. I network. I get a hold of people to explain things to me better, because if I read it, I can't comprehend it, type thing. So if I can do it, you can do it. You know, like and it's plausible for anybody. And as far as my movement, I do have a Facebook page called Freedom Lovers of Franklinville. And I am Reese Perry on Facebook. You can friend request me. You can ask to join the group. You know, I always give out my email, my phone number. I'm always down to have wonderful conversations with people, especially concerned parents. Sometimes I can't help everybody. Sometimes, you know, what I tell them or what they have to complain about, or, you know, or talk about, I have no answers, but I'm a support. I'm a support, and I'm somebody who will listen to you, and somebody who will genuinely care. And if I can help you, you bet your bottom dollar I will send whatever help I can your way. So, and that's about it.
It was my honor to have you on today, Reese.
Oh, thank you.
Reese Perry, you are a beacon of hope for a lot of people, and you're a wonderful example to be set for other parents who are fighting for their kids and fighting for their constitutional rights. So
absolutely. And I also want to throw in there too that you know, if you have any want information on homeschooling, when I tell you I've dug to the bottom of the barrel for that too, I can give you all and any information on homeschooling, how to start co-ops, how to do anything.
Excellent. Good point. Good point. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So contact. So one more time here. So it's Freedom Lovers of Franklinville. Our guest today was Reese Perry, and both of those are on Facebook. You can reach out to her. She's an open book, and she's a wonderful resource to folks. So you're listening to this, reach out to Reese. She's awesome. And folks, thank you so much for being with us. Folks, we're on YouTube now. You can find us at Disobedient Podcast on YouTube. We have a video podcast channel at Disobedient_podcaster on BitChute. And of course, we're on iTunes and Spotify with the audio versions of this show. So however you're reaching us, please subscribe, rate, share, get the word out, help us get the word to other people who are hungry for the kind of information that we're providing. And that is basically the word of folks who are rebelling against the system. I guess that's what it boils down to. I think I'm not going to kid myself. I think that this show was always intended to be, you know, a Rage Against the Machine kind of show. and so those are you're the kind of people that I always want to interview, because you are being disobedient to those who are effectively trying to strip us of our rights and the things that we hold dear. So thanks again, Reese.
Like if I was like all over the place, like it's like there's so much in my mind, and there's so much information I want to get out, and I don't want to like jump around from subject to subject, but sometimes I don't know, it happens. We're all human.
This was a great conversation. I'm so very honored to have had you on. So you take care. We'll talk again soon.
All right.
Okay.